Hi, I'm Angela Tran, and I'm the founder and owner of Ever Evolving Skills. I am a brand new entrepreneur who just left my corporate life of 18 years to go off on my own. And today I want to tell you why I did that and share my journey with you, hoping to inspire in case you ever want to do it yourself, and also while it's fresh on my mind. So, just to give a little bit of background of myself, I am a child of Vietnamese refugees. So my parents had fled the war in the late 1970s on a boat, pretty traumatic event, and into a neutral country until finally being sponsored into America, which is where I was born. So I grew up in a household that spoke Chinese. I know that doesn't make sense, but turns out that my grandparents had also fled China or started over into a new country in Vietnam, and hence my parents were there. That is why I am Chinese descent. I struggled a lot when I was little in speaking and writing in English just because it was not my first language, although it is primarily my dominant language. But regardless of that, I was still able to succeed in school. I would say I really, really loved learning. And though in the beginning it was a little bit rough to get to know the language and writing and all that, I did fairly well in school. And I progressively got better and better, right? As I understood the system, I understood how schooling worked and how my own learning style. So even since middle school, I was handpicked to go compete, not in sports, but in academics. I competed in math. High school, I competed in computer science, where you code. I also competed in science competitions. So I was a pretty big nerd. And I would say that paid off. I was able to apply to scholarships on top of the fact that my parents were just blue collar workers. My mom was a waitress. My dad worked hourly in a manufacturing company, and we didn't have a whole lot of money. So it pays to be smart and poor. With that, I had got a full scholarship to go to a university, which I graduated in 3 years and then just started working. In my eyes, I believe in the American dream. I believe that everybody has a chance to succeed. At least that's based on my own experience. So after graduation, it was in '06, so right before the '08-'09 economic downturn, I actually had 4 or 5 job offers, and I actually got to pick one. So I picked the one that I thought was a big company, would look good on my resume, and have a diverse background. That was with one of the big 4 at Deloitte. Genuinely a good place to start your career, but also a very demanding one. But I started as an auditor, didn't know what that meant. Turns out I didn't really like that, so quickly I transitioned to consulting in the data space. That set my career off into data analytics. So from there, I did a lot of consulting clients how to implement analytics data solutions. I would say a race through life, right? I was a high achiever, so after college, I was just checking off the box. Well, what makes the American dream possible? So, by 21, I was engaged. 22, I was married. On top of that, I was building my career. So by the time I was 30, I was already on my 3rd home. I kept upsizing, and I was a senior manager in data analytics, and I had 2 children already. So I reached it, and I'm gonna be happy. It turns out it doesn't work that way. Once you check off everything in your early 30s, or at least in my early 30s, I didn't know what else left, honestly, there was to do, and I started actually feeling really empty. And it took me several years of exploring myself, of exploring different things, to realize that I just didn't know myself. Not until 2021 the breakthrough started to happen. So right after COVID, I was really busy trying to do multiple things. I'd also started my master's in analytics. And so with family, with work, and trying to pursue a master's, life was really busy. But 2021 was a time where maybe I finally tipped it too far into outside my comfort zone. And it really forced me to look inward. So at that time, I had decided, oh, maybe I'm ready for the next step. I'm ready. Because in these early 30s and these kind of 5-6 years, I didn't really pursue kind of growing upward in the ladder, just because I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted. But 5 years in, I was like, okay, you know what? Let me try something else. So I did apply to a different job and actually got a really good role as the head of data analytics. Love the fact that they gave me an opportunity and got the salary that I wanted, and also just an opportunity to build up. They were in a state of transformation, and they've never had a data analyst function, and I got to build that all on my own. Little did I know that the shift was quite big just from a cultural standpoint. I was in the financial sector, and then I had transitioned to a oil and gas area, which is very different. For the first time, I felt unconscious bias. Not only that, I had worked for a different style of management that I may not have been used to, but they also hired me an executive coach in this role, and that was life-changing. And so one of the biggest thing I learned from the coach, I would say, is you will be at your best when you're most aligned with yourself. 9 months into this role, I had an opportunity to actually go back to my company just because I was like, I'm ready to go home. And when I was talking and negotiating, they actually offered me a new role. So instead of being a senior manager in data analytics, they were saying, how about we give you a director position into staff development? It turns out that over my work experience, even in an analytics role, I had always been very passionate about learning and teaching. In fact, one of the curriculums I created was an 8-week program for the department learning data analytics. And did it feel right to pivot my career into data, which is a very lucrative field? I'm not sure, but it felt right at the time. And I was like, yes, I really think I always was passionate about people. I would say probably one of my favorite roles ever. It felt right. And people could tell when I was speaking in front of the department. People would pay me and be like, gosh, Angela, you're really passionate. I really feel your energy, and this is the role for you, even though they'd seen me in a different role before. I was in the right role. I was in, the right place. So why would I leave? So even last year, I was getting into speaking outside. I was kind of expanding my horizon, expanding my wings. It's a picture of me speaking at a conference. So I felt like I was really at the height of my career, and I was doing really well. So well, it afforded me a lot of comfort. Last year was an epic travel year. In the beginning of the year, we were in Hawaii for spring break. In the summertime, we took the kids and my parents to Alaskan cruise. By the end of year and Thanksgiving, we were in Singapore. Not even mentioning all the trips in between. There's also a piece about me that I haven't gone into. I was Googling a sleepless night and why I couldn't sleep. I actually discovered that I have a personality trait called highly sensitive person, so HSP, or another term, sensory processing sensitivity. So you've never heard of it. I hadn't either until I had Googled it. It's actually a term coined by Dr. Aaron and her husband in the 90s, and it affects, statistics they say, 25 to 30% of the population. We can be very sensitive to the environment. We tend to soak everything in, absorb it, and then be able to process that, right? We can't filter it out. We have difficulty doing that. So, doesn't always sound the most comfortable. I would say this world isn't always the best place for us sensitive folks, but coming alongside with that package, it's also deep thinking. So this trait helped me do really well in school just because I was able to take information, process it, and learn really quickly. So even if I switch roles, I go to something different, I'm still able to pick it up just like I switch roles from data analytics to staff development and still do well in that. But alongside with this, highly sensitive people, usually we need a high sense of purpose. So my husband finally switches jobs after, I think, 15 years. And he's finally able to cover our family's health insurance. It's always been me for the last decade we've been married. And it took a lot of pressure off me. Then I feel like I didn't have to work for a big company so that I can cover my family's insurance, and the pressure of that started to lift. Also, my favorite manager ever was retiring. He had been in the company for 41 years and he was ready to go. In fact, he retired earlier this year. And I thought it was a beautiful way to end my corporate life, or at least close this chapter on a high note. And then the one question I asked myself, at the end of my career, would I look back and regret not going for it? I think the answer was yes, I would regret it. I regret not trying to go and solve the problem that I had always been thinking about. So I finally was able to put that, all my thoughts, into a problem statement I think is happening, and also through my own research. So I do think that since the industrialized world of the 1700s, when machinery was big, everything kind of had sped up really fast. If you ever looked at the iteration between each industrial revolution, it shrinks. I think we're on 5.0 now. And the difference between 4.0 and 5.0 was a matter of like 20 to 30 years, when the first one was maybe 100 years. So because of this industrialization and this mass production, it drove our educational system. We think about tardy bells, we think about really rigid schedules. It's that clock in, clock out, where we're making humans like organized machines so that we can go and mass produce. And for the most part, it was probably a good thing. Rich, poor, everybody got a chance at education, and that is wonderful. But at the same time, I think it dehumanized our skills a little bit, because humans, we aren't robots. So in this meantime, the past 100 years or so, we see people, and even our corporate world is like that. Hey, you're in charge of this spreadsheet, you're in charge of this process, you just do it. And now things have moved so fast. The bots got humanized. Right now in Gen AI, you can have a whole conversation. Even developing this video, I got to ask Gen AI about, hey, what would be a good format for it? I mean, it's amazing. So where does that leave us? People are afraid of losing job to AI. Many have already, in fact, right, over the last 100 years, just because of machinery and everything. And it really, I think, leads to defeating human experience. There's so many talks, it's like, I don't know if I really like my job, but I feel like I'm stuck doing it. I just want to do it, get paid, and go home. And though that is a philosophy, I would think that's not the way to live. My goal now with this company is to really help people unlock their human skills. I think we're all born with it. And so when I discovered the term meta skills last year, my brain literally lit up. Just to give an example what meta skills is. So in my ability to speak English and Chinese are my technical skills, right? That's the subject, right? But my ability to pick up another character-based language, or my ability to pick up another Latin language, would be my higher level meta skills. And I think that's the secret, at least, of my own success, that I was able to pick up the pattern across different subjects and different things to enable my learning really quickly. So I'm really excited to break down this framework with you and really just share it with the world and help others succeed and really find themselves. I want to say that goal is to unlock your own human intelligence and help you find a passion income. If you don't like slaving over passive income, which I did not, because it didn't give me any meaning and purpose, I think true satisfaction, true meaning of finding yourself is most important. So I hope you continue to follow my journey, and I'll be sharing updates of what I'm developing until I can develop that product. And I hope you enjoy and learn something from this. Thank you for listening and watching. So hit that like and subscribe is what my husband tells me to say, so you can keep posted with all the future videos and follow my journey. Thank you.